What if I told you that the worst day of your life might secretly be the day that saves you? I know that sounds dramatic, but stay with me, because this story might feel uncomfortably close to home. This is about a woman I'll call Lena Brooks. Not her real name, and not a story you've heard before. But it could be yours. Lena grew up in a quiet town called Maple Hollow, the kind of place where everyone waves, but no one really sees you. From the outside, her life looked stable. 2 parents, a small blue house, family dinners every Sunday. But behind closed doors, there was a different reality. Her father wasn't violent. He wasn't cruel in obvious ways. He was distant, cold, emotionally unavailable. And psychological research shows that emotional neglect can be just as damaging as physical abuse. When a child's emotional needs are ignored, their brain learns something dangerous. My feelings don't matter. Lena learned that early. By the time she was 8, she had already mastered the art of being low maintenance. She didn't ask for help. She didn't cry loudly. She didn't cause problems. Because somewhere deep down, she believed love was conditional. And here's the scary part. Children don't blame their parents. They blame themselves. So Lena became perfect. Perfect grades. Perfect behavior. Perfect smile. In high school, teachers adored her. Friends leaned on her. But nobody asked how she was doing. And she never volunteered the truth. Psychologists call this the high-functioning invisible child. On the outside, they thrive. On the inside, they're starving for connection. Fast forward 10 years. Lena is now 28, living in a city I'll call Brighton Bay. She has a steady job in marketing. She's in a long-term relationship with a guy named Caleb Turner. From Instagram's perspective, she's winning. But in reality, she's exhausted. Because when you grow up believing love must be earned, you overextend yourself in every relationship. Lena said yes when she wanted to say no. She apologized when she wasn't wrong. She carried emotional burdens that weren't hers. And Caleb? He wasn't a bad guy. But he was comfortable letting her do all the emotional labor. She planned the dates, initiated hard conversations, smoothed over arguments. One night, after a small disagreement about something stupid, dirty dishes, I think, Caleb said something that cracked her world open. "You're too sensitive. It's not that deep." That sentence hit harder than he realized. Because when you've spent your whole life feeling unseen, being told you're too sensitive doesn't feel like feedback. It feels like erasure. Here's a psychological truth. When someone dismisses your emotions repeatedly, your nervous system registers it as rejection. Over time, that creates anxiety, hypervigilance, and self-doubt. That night, Lena sat in her car in the parking lot for nearly an hour. And for the first time in her life, she didn't blame herself. She asked a different question. What if I'm not too sensitive? What if I've just never been heard? That question changed everything. Growth rarely feels empowering at first. It feels terrifying. Lena started therapy, not because she was falling apart, but because she was tired of holding herself together. In therapy, she learned about attachment styles. She discovered she had an anxious attachment pattern, constantly seeking reassurance, fearing abandonment, overanalyzing tone shifts. But here's the powerful part. Attachment styles aren't life sentences. They're adaptations. Her brain had adapted to survive emotional unpredictability. It wasn't broken. It was protective. For months, she did the uncomfortable work. She practiced setting boundaries. The first time she told Caleb, "That comment hurt me," her voice shook. Her hands trembled. But she said it anyway. And when he rolled his eyes, something inside her clicked. Love shouldn't feel like auditioning. A few weeks later, Lena made the hardest decision of her life. She ended the relationship. Not in anger. Not in drama. But in clarity. She chose herself. And let me tell you something. Choosing yourself after a lifetime of self-abandonment feels like learning to walk again. There were lonely nights. Doubt crept in. She almost texted him more than once. Because the human brain prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar freedom. That's not weakness. That's neuroscience. But every time she resisted going back, she strengthened a new neural pathway. One rooted in self-respect. Months later, something unexpected happened. She felt lighter. Not because life was perfect, but because she wasn't betraying herself anymore. She started painting again, something she'd loved as a kid. She made friends who asked real questions and waited for real answers. She learned to sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of silencing them. And slowly, she stopped shrinking. Here's the truth most people won't tell you. Healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before you learned you had to earn love. If you see yourself in Lena's story, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not too sensitive. You are not too much. And you were never meant to perform for love. Sometimes the breaking point is the breakthrough. Sometimes the sentence that hurts the most becomes the sentence that sets you free. And if this story resonated with you, if it felt personal, I want you to stay connected. Because we tell stories like this every week. Stories about healing, growth, psychology, real life. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and join a community that believes emotional strength is real strength. You don't have to go through your healing journey alone. And remember, your worst day might just be the beginning of your real life.